any temperature ratings you typically see on a sleeping bag is the extreme temp. So if it's rated at it's a 15 degree bag, typically that's the extreme temperature. The comfort rating would be 30 or 32 degrees. That's the case with my sleeping bag. Typically that rating is just the extreme rating, not your comfort rating. So you want to look at what that comfort rating is for like the average sleeper and keeping them warm, not the extreme. A 0 degree bag, yeah, it will keep you alive when it's 0 degrees. That's the bag. You want to be comfortable. So that comfort rating is probably really 15 or 20 degrees instead of really 0. If you're camping in 0 degree weather, you can use a 0 degree bag and get by with that fine. Throw a sleeping bag liner, layer of your clothes, you're good to go. You really are. And I know this because I've slept in a 58 degree summer sleeping bag. That's the extreme temperature. And I slept in it in freezing temperatures, 30 degrees. See that lone pine up on that hill over there? What are we actually doing right now? The kids are just wild out there. They're wild. But they're having a good time, you know? They're having a good time. This is Untamed, Unbroken, The Adventurer's Guide, and I'm your host, Blake Bredesen. Today is part 3 of our wilderness series, where we're going to be talking about essential gear and packing lists. All right, so this is broken down. We got backpacks, efficient packing. We'll talk about that, get into the details. Shelter and sleep systems, gear technology and recommendations, and last but not least, clothing and footwear for the wild. Let's go. Choosing the right backpack, man. It should be a no-brainer, but this one's central to your experience. We talked about physical fitness before, and that will play a role into the type of backpack you want and the type of trip you're going to have. But having a good pack is super important, especially if you're going on a backpacking trip. When you're portaging and you're canoeing, you're going to have likely different types of packs. They make specific packs for canoes. You can also use a regular backpacking type of pack, and it works fine. You just lay it down in the canoe. But they do make special canoe packs for those types of trips. But having the right one is going to be crucial, because one, it's going to contain all your gear. It's going to enhance any comfort, and it's going to determine how far you do go because of how comfortable that pack is on your shoulders. How far can you walk? How far can you go in one shot? So choosing that right pack, it's going to depend on your trip length and how much gear you need. Weekend trips, you're looking for a 30 to 50 liter backpack. That might be enough. For a full week long, you're looking 50 to 70 liters. They make packs up to 100 liters for sure. I wish I knew, if anything longer than a week, you're going to want a bigger pack, probably just for food, mainly. But also depends on the type of year you're going, bulkier gear. But you want something that's going to fit. It's going to be comfortable. Something you can adjust the torso length. That's a big deal. Everybody's torso length is different. You want to be able to adjust that. You want to have a nice hip belt, something that's easy to tighten up, that you can actually pull towards the middle of your body to tighten it up instead of pulling away from your body. Higher quality packs have that ability where they just have an extra buckle where when you're tightening that, you're actually pulling those straps closer to your midline rather than out towards your sides to tighten that hip belt. That's super nice. Having extra adjustments in your shoulders is also something to look for. Having a food shelf or whatever, different packs for different adventures. Your hunting pack is going to be different from your backpacking one. Typically, you don't need a different pack to go hunting. You can use a regular backpack, but just look at fit and comfort. That's a big one. Capacity to the length of trip that you're going to be on. And then looking for any special features you might want. Does it have a rain cover, ventilation system, hydration compatibility? Can you fit a Camelback or some sort of hydration? What's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, like a 3-liter container, water reservoir, that port and the drinking tube. The hydration system thing's not necessary. You can have water bottles. Sometimes water bottles are a lot easier to deal with. I use a Catadine water filter with a 1 liter, a little bag that it screws onto, and it's not so having like a Camelback type thing with the hose, not necessary. It's nice. You might want to find a way to insulate that tube if you do go that route from freezing, but also from the water getting hot in the tube. Packing techniques, looking in at balance and accessibility, distribute that weight evenly. How you pack your bag will affect how well you're traveling on the trail. So having some easily accessible stuff, maybe like a rain jacket, snacks, and water, easily accessible. And then organizing that into the less frequent items you use, kind of at the bottom, but you also don't want the super heavy things further away from your back type of thing, or you kind of want heavier things towards the bottom or the middle, but you also want the heavier things close to your back and not way out on the back of that pack, if that makes sense. But you want to just find a nice way to pack those things so it's comfortable while you're out there walking and hiking on the trail. Compression organization, compression sacks for clothing. Some people will vacuum seal all of their stuff, which to me is, you can start off all sweet with that and nice and small. But you're going to open it up and you're not going to vacuum seal it to pack everything back in. Packing cubes help organize some smaller items. There's different little pouches and stuff to just keep things a little more organized inside that pack. Compression sacks I use for clothing and sleeping bags. Be careful with compression sacks and some of the higher end sleeping bags. You don't want to blow them out. It pretty much does it for backpacks. Let's move on to shelter and sleep systems. So this stuff's come a long ways. Ultralight materials, weather resistance. There's so many different types of sleep systems out there. You can sleep right on the ground. You can sleep in a hammock. You can sleep in a tent. You can sleep in a tent without a ground sheet or with no floor. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of nice lightweight fabrics out there. It's going to reduce weight if that's what you're looking for. Without really sacrificing the strength of the material either. Weather resistance, you're looking for a lot of times these are measured in millimeters, like a 3,000 millimeter waterproof, water resistant floor. The higher that number, the better. Like, for example, I have a jacket that is 10,000 millimeter, has waterproofing or water resistance, versus one of my tents, the walls are 1,500 or 2,000. The floor is 3,000. So if you have a tent that has 1,000 millimeter floor, you're definitely going to want to have a ground sheet. Just the lower that number, the more likely water is going to seep through. The higher the number, the more resistance to water moving into the sleep system. So tents, there's a lot of things out there. Going back into the tents, I personally I use a 3-man tent for myself. I just like the extra space. If I get rained out a day, I have space inside my tent and I'm not cramped. You can call that glamping. It adds a couple pounds. Literally though, my tent is still only just over 5 pounds for a 3-person tent. That's not bad. Is it the 1 or 2 pound ultralight type tents and shelters that you can sleep in? No, it's not. But I don't care, because that's the type of trip I'm going for. I'm not going on an ultralight through hike. I would totally change my situation if that's what I was doing. So, sleeping bags, there's the old down versus synthetic. Down is lighter. It's more compressible. But if it gets wet, you're screwed. Synthetic, little bit bulkier, but new age synthetic is pretty damn close to some down out there. And it will still keep you warm when it's wet or damp. Temperature ratings. Any temperature ratings you typically see on a sleeping bag is the extreme temp. So if it's rated at it's a 15 degree bag, typically that's the extreme temperature. The comfort rating would be 30 or 32 degrees. That's the case with my sleeping bag. Typically that rating is just the extreme rating, not your comfort rating. So you want to look at what that comfort rating is for like the average sleeper and keeping them warm, not the extreme. A 0 degree bag, yeah, it will keep you alive when it's 0 degrees. That's the bag. You want to be comfortable. So that comfort rating is probably really 15 or 20 degrees. Talking Fahrenheit, 15 or 20 degrees instead of really 0. If you're camping in 0 degree weather, you can use a 0 degree bag and get by with that fine. Throw a sleeping bag liner, layer up your clothes, you're good to go. You really are. And I know this because I've slept in a 58 degree summer sleeping bag. That's the extreme temperature. And I slept in it in freezing temperatures, 30 degrees. And just with me wearing some warmer clothes was okay. It was a little cold, but I was okay. Still got some good sleep. So just know that when you're looking at sleeping bags, there's a lot of good brands out there too on those. Sleeping pads. So you need to focus in on R value. Here is the biggest thing. And this is going to measure the pad's ability to resist heat flow. So the higher the R value, the better. That's the warmer the pad. If you have an R value of 1, that is a slumber sleeping bag only. You will lose all heat to that air in the sleeping pad. If you have an R value of 3 or above, that's good. If you're in the winter, you would typically want to see an R value of 5 or 6 if you're in the winter camping. There's various types. Self-inflating, there's foam ones. It just all depends on what kind of trip you're going on, how bulky you want it to be, and the time of year. So mine are, I have one Thermarest that's pretty big. It's older though. This is before all the new technology has come out. It has an R value of 6. Super nice, warm, big, 2.5 inches thick, I think, which is plenty. Very nice. And then I have a smaller sleeping pad from REI. It has a 5.5 R value. Little bit smaller, 1.5 inch thick, or is it maybe even 2 inches still? 1.5 inch or 2 inches, which is still plenty. It's good. But it's a little smaller, a little more compact. That's the one I mainly bring on trips with me. But I do have a couple of really small pads that have an R value of 1 that are basically nothing but air and would be a summer situation only. Moving on from sleep systems to merino wool and the advantage it brings to layering with merino wool. So layering is a big part of outdoor apparel. Merino wool is one of the best things you can do for a base layer, but also mid layers. Things like temperature regulation, moisture management, odor resistance. So it's excellent at regulating your body temp, keeping you warm in cold conditions, cool in hot conditions. I've talked about that in a episode all about merino wool. Moisture management. It's going to wick away sweat from the body, keeping you dry and comfortable, but it's also going to not stink. It's a naturally odor resistant, which is super nice when you're on extended trips. It helps you bring less clothes. You bring less clothes, and then it's especially nice where washing clothes isn't an option, where you can't rinse a shirt in a river or a lake, where you can't do that. Merino's gonna be your best friend. Move on. Let's go gear technology and recommendations. So, backpack technology, tent technology, sleeping bag technologies, sleeping pad technologies. That's what we're talking about here. So it's a little bit of a deep dive. Let's backpacks. Suspension systems. Modern backpacks feature advanced suspension systems that can distribute that weight more evenly, and they reduce strain on your shoulders and hips. Would recommend brands such as Osprey, Gregory, Deuter, Kafaru, Exo. Gosh, what is that one? Exos. I want to say exoskeleton, but it's not exoskeleton. I think it's just Exo, EXO. Stone Glacier, Mystery Ranch. More affordable option would be like Alps Outdoors. I actually have one from them, and it's good. They're good. Like packs these days are really good. There's a lot of companies out there too, like Kafaru, right here, made in the U.S. Just a ton of options. More expensive, some of these brands, but you're getting really good gear that you're going to buy once and it's going to last you forever. But also comfortable, and you just want to make sure you have the right pack for the job. Tent technology. So you got the geodesic structures, the dome shape, right? This design is nothing new, but if you're going to be in windy areas, you want to have that nice you want to have a dome shaped tent. Ideally, something that's going to deflect wind as much as possible or be more streamlined. Some recommended tents or brands, and again, there's hundreds of them out there. MSR Hubba Hubba, Z-Packs Duplex for if you're going ultralight solo trips. Other brands to look at: Nemo, Peaks Equipment, Seek, maybe. Anyways, even REI, Cabela's, like they have brands of tents that are. They have some ones that Big Agnes is a good one too. Big Agnes is out there. Just some entry level tents to some more kind of ultralight with the Z-Packs. That's a big one. I've watched people do through hikes, the PCT, the Appalachian Trail, and those Z-Packs duplex. Super lightweight. Sleeping bags. Water resistant down. So down bags treated with water resistant coatings. So you get that benefit of the down, but with less vulnerability to moisture or them getting wet and damp and trouble drying out. So that's a thing. That's an option. There's also the really high-end synthetic brands, synthetic down that's out there. I have a synthetic down from Hike and Bike, HYKE and BYKE, Hike and Bike. It's a synthetic down, but dang, that thing packs up small. My daughter, I bought her a Big Agnes synthetic, and that thing is a smaller sleeping bag, but it doesn't pack down as small as my Hike and Bike. Both are 15-degree bags. Now, there's reasons I got that Big Agnes for her. One of the main ones, because it was adjustable in length. You could kind of roll it up and hold it in place. And it had basically a spot or a slot that you can slide the sleeping pad through, so your sleeping bag's not sliding all over the sleeping pad, which to me is a critical thing for kids and creating a good experience for them, is making sure that they sleep well and they're not rolling all over the place and that sleeping pad stays underneath them. I always remember that as a kid growing up, and I hated it. I hated that part. I was always falling off my sleeping pad, or the sleeping bag was sliding off to the side or whatever. And so this solves it. That sleeping bag solves the issue. Nemo, Marmot, Peaks, again, Peaks Equipment, which is PEAX. They sell out of their stuff really fast. It's really high end. It's really good. It's made for the backcountry hunter. Western Mountaineering, another good one. REI. Sleeping bag or sleeping pad technology. So inflation system. Some air pads will come in with a built-in pump. I have one that has a built-in pump. It's a summer bag, or just self-inflating, self-deflating. Just makes the self-inflation really makes things a lot better. You just throw it out there and inflates. One of the highest recommended sleeping pads I think out there all time is the Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite. Warm and lightweight. More budget-friendly option, Nemo, the Nemo Tensor insulated one. That's good. Thermarest makes other ones that are maybe not as light, just as warm, not as light, a little more bulky. There's other brands out there. Like I said, I have a Thermarest. I have one from REI. I have a couple other off-brand ones I've just bought off Amazon for cheap and just testing those out, and they're decent too. So you don't have to spend $250 on a sleeping pad. There's a lot of options. Let's move on to clothing and footwear. One of the most important things is footwear. Clothing, important too. You want to make sure you're choosing the right wilderness camping attire, because guess what? You are in the wilderness. You can't just go back to the closet and switch things up. So layering system is the biggest thing. So effective layering, managing that body temperature. It's going to vary with weather conditions, but basic 3-layer system. You want base layers for moisture control, management. You want that middle layer for insulation. You want that outer layer for that protection against wind, rain, sleet, snow, etc. Base layer, look for materials that wick away moisture away from the body and avoid cotton. So you want merino wool or synthetic, just no synthetic fibers. They're going to smell quickly, versus merino wool you can wear for a few days before you even smell anything. Avoiding cotton. cotton's just all around bad to wear out in a wilderness situation. Just leave it at home. Leave it at home. Merino wool is my favorite. I've said it before. I will always have merino wool on my skin. You can even get merino wool underwear. Mid layers, I like fleece. I like grid fleece. I like down or synthetic down. Like insulated jackets are good. Berber fleece mixed with merino wool is a really good one. I have a couple things from Cabela's that are that. They're windproof. They're super warm. Fleece is always a really good one. Fleece is a good one for that mid layer. Merino wool mid layers are also an option. Outer layer. This is going to be a big one. Look for something that's breathable, waterproof, that has, even the outer layers get complex in how many layers that outer layer has. If it's a 2-layer system, 3-layer system, or a 4-layer like garment. But look for something like Gore-Tex or similar. Pit zip, have some zips for ventilation. That's always nice. Adjustable hoods, pockets. And then depending on your destination, the season, you might need some more specialized type clothing like insulated pants, puffy pants for packability, that type of thing, or a lightweight, super thin long sleeve shirts for sun protection. Maybe long sleeve shirts with a hood for sun protection that are SPF 30, 40, or 50 or something like that. Moisture wicking clothes, underwear, socks. I wear wool socks on most trips. I'm wearing wool socks, whether they're thin ones or thicker ones. And then I wear typically synthetic underwear. I do have one pair of merino wool underwear. I would buy more. The brand I bought and the size, they fit tighter. That brand fits tighter is what I found out. Footwear, biggest thing. Hiking boots versus shoes. The material, the build. Choosing the right socks. Making sure you break in that footwear. Do you need gaiters? Let's get into that. So choosing hiking boots versus shoes. This is going to depend on the terrain, your personal preference. Boots typically offer a little more support for that ankle and a little more protection. This is helpful if you're going over some really rugged terrain, if you're carrying heavy loads. Shoes, they're lighter, potentially more comfortable, but probably going to be what you use for a less demanding trail. Look for something that's durable. Look for something that's water resistant. Has a good tread pattern on the outside, sturdy sole, support insoles. All these shoes, most of them, you can swap out insoles. You can go online, look at different insoles, and put the different insole in whatever you want. So like I have some hybrid, they're not quite orthotics, but they're a high density foam with a little arch support that I will put in some of my shoes. And those, you want something that has a high energy return in the insole. You don't want a super squishy insole. Your foot, you're going to be working hard for that. It's like, what's easier, walking on a hard surface or walking in sand? Okay? You want that high energy return of walking on not concrete, but a firmer foam insole that has some arch support is nice when you're out on hikes. When I'm at home, I like a zero drop minimalistic type of shoe, but I'm not walking around with 60 pounds on my back or whatever in that scenario. I'm just at home. We're driving around, running errands, that type of thing. But look for something with a waterproof membrane like Gore-Tex. Those are always super nice, Keen, Dry, whatever. All these brands have their own kind of waterproof membrane. It seems like socks, let's just say, go with merino wool. You won't. Avoid cotton socks. Consider thickness, thick socks versus thin socks. Socks that have the individual toes can be super, super beneficial on long hikes. Breaking in footwear. Just make sure that when you're on your trip, it's not the first time you've worn that boot or that shoe. So break them in. It helps prevent blisters. It helps let you know that you actually like the footwear and that it's comfortable. And then it adjusts to your feet. When you break them in, your feet, they kind of break in those insoles. That's the biggest thing, is breaking in the insoles. So just wear them on shorter hikes around town, walking around, whatever, and pack some Leuko tape for those blisters. Leuko tape, Leuko. Get it on Amazon. Gaiters. Do you need them? Do you not need them? Trips through snow or wet grass, rough terrain. Gaiters can be super nice, preventing debris from entering your shoe, giving you some extra protection against abrasion or moisture. On to specific gear recommendations. Now, there's a lot of options here. Base layers. I like Smart Wool. I like First Light. I like Black Ovis. Another wool company that I like and respect, I don't have any of their stuff, is Duckworth. Synthetic options, they're all over. Under Armour, Nike, Patagonia, North Face. You just think of a brand. Go on Amazon, look up base layers on Amazon, the whole bunch of them, made in China, whatever. Insulation. So your mid layer. The Patagonia Nano Puff Jacket is a good one. Arc'teryx makes a really good one. Shoot, I even have a puffy jacket from Old Navy that is actually really good. It rivals my hunting puffy jacket. So I like, for the insulation aspect, I really do like a puffy jacket for its packability. You can pack that away. Super nice. I also do like a good fleece. Or a grid fleece type of thing. Outer layer, Arc'teryx Beta AR jacket is a good one. Marmot Precip jacket is another good one. Again, the outer layers, you just want to make sure it's going to protect you from the wind, the rain, snow, sleet, whatever it is. First Light has a lot of good ones. Again, 100 brands out there that will do the job. Footwear, I do. Solomon is a good one. Merrell is a good one. The Solomon Quest 4D 3 GTX, that's a good all-around hiking boot. Lighter, you're looking at the Merrell Moab. Other choices that I also like and have are Keen and Oboes. Those are just great hiking shoes, great hiking boots. Companies. Crispy and Hanwag, I think I'm saying that right. Those are, if you're out in the mountains and you're doing some hunting, or if you're doing a lot of off trail in the mountains, check out those two brands, Crispy, Hanwag, great boots. Guess what? There's also probably about 10 to 15 other fantastic brands for mountainous terrain. You just got to find what's going to work for you. Go somewhere, try them on. You can also, a lot of these companies, you can order pretty easy online and make returns or exchanges online. So it's pretty easy that way. That does it for part 3 I will have a whole packing list attached or linked up that you can just kind of go through. I don't always have specific brands and stuff like that. It's more generic, I guess, on the brands, but pretty specific on some of the gear selection. Next, in part 4, we're going to get into food and water essentials. We're going to go into all the details from food and water, what to pack, what snacks, caloric intake, water, safety, and filtration. Until then, stay wild. Thank you for sticking around. If you've enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating and review. Even one word, it helps a ton. Sincerely appreciate you guys. Thank you all, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay wild.
You've been listening to Untamed, Unbroken, a Lone Pine Adventures original podcast.